Venus and Mars are doing some kind of thing right now, and I feel like it's really important. So that is what our tarot reading is going to be about today. Before we get into what all of that means, what Venus and Mars are all doing, I have a couple of announcements as usual. My giveaway continues. We are getting so close, and I am so excited to get to know some of you guys. So if you don't know, once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I am giving away a number of prizes, most of which are going to be readings, maybe some physical things as well. But I really feel like it's going to be really helpful for us to meet each other and do sessions, read your cards, read your natal charts. So if you want to enter that giveaway, all you have to do is subscribe to this YouTube channel, go follow me on Instagram, and then comment below to let me know that you did those things, and I will put you on my list. I also want to let you guys know, if you are interested in doing any private sessions with me, you can absolutely go book those on my website, harveymountainalchemy.com. I do a multitude of different things. I do tarot, astrology, numerology. I even have Reiki on my website as well. And then I also teach. So I teach tarot, I teach astrology. I've really come into this niche of doing private sessions, private lessons, and teaching people one-on-one about tarot or about astrology, because then you get a really personalized course and we can talk about what level you're at the beginning, and then we go from there. Again, you can do that on my website, harveymountainalchemy.com. Happy March. I'm so excited. We are in March. We are approaching Aries season, which is my season. I'm super stoked. How are you guys all feeling about Pisces season? I know it's been quite the ride. My name is Mimi Folco from Harvey Mountain Alchemy. I'm a tarot reader, astrologer, numerologist, Reiki practitioner, among many other magical things, and I am here today to do the tarot reading for Venus and Mars. I want to first talk about what Venus and Mars means and what they're doing. So Venus represents your desires and your sensory needs, right? She's a goddess of creation, and what ends up as a product of creativity begins as an urge to make a really tangible representation of your own inner vision. And Venus sort of has two sides to it, sort of like Saturn. There's this side that we all know as seeking balance and harmony. I mean, it rules the sign Libra, but Venus also really likes tangible effort and physical results, right? Venus also rules Taurus. So there's this deep desire on Venus's end to find contentment and balance, but she is also willing to do what needs to be done in order to get to that end point. Mars is much more straightforward. Mars likes movement and action and wants to know there's always something more coming up. And depending on where it's placed in your chart, in your natal chart, Mars can actually be really restless, or it could be super productive. But either way, Mars holds this space for really driven passion, and he seeks direction most of all. So we're currently in this really rare state astrologically where Venus and Mars are riding along in a conjunction for basically 6 weeks, which means that they are running along together in the same place. Normally, Venus is way faster than Mars and would pass it by, but because Venus stationed out of that retrograde from December and January, she's moving at a much slower, leisurely pace. So we get this conjunction out of Mars and Venus for like 6 weeks. And that started around February 7th and it ends around March 27th. So how we use this energy is by combining the creativity that Venus yearns for and the actions Mars really wants us to take. And it could actually be really positive. Does that mean everything's gonna be super productive and nothing bad is gonna happen? Of course not. Things of varying severity happen every day. But the more that we can see this conjunction as an energy that we can use to our benefit, the better off we're gonna be. Like I said, this conjunction began in Capricorn, but both Venus and Mars enter Aquarius on March 6th. And actually it's around 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we might feel some sudden shifts at around that time, especially because if it's as a transit, they'll be moving from one house in our natal charts to another. Also, because they shift signs, this transit really does affect the masses. Cardinal signs will have been feeling it strong for the first few weeks when it was in Capricorn, and then later the fixed signs will really be influenced by these two planets now that it's in Aquarius. Refresher, the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, and the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So if you have any heavy placements in any of those 8 signs, this will be affecting you strongly. So I'm going to talk about how this astrology is going to affect you based off of your zodiac sign, and then I'll pull some cards to really get to the core of it, see what messages your guides might have for you. I will say I would suggest watching your rising sign first if you know it, and then your sun and moon. So I've got your piles down on the table here. We're gonna see what the cards and the stars have to say. Let's get into it. All right, hello Aries. So for those heavy Aries placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off in your 10th house of career, reputation, reputation and social standing. And I'm sure that that Venus retrograde in the 10th house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those themes. And then once that ended, Mars is really asking you to take action that aligns with the new values you were given. There needs to be passion involved in what you believe your path to be, right? That's so 10th house. Make sure you are allowing yourself to be self-realistic, but also creative in your goals when it comes to how you're seen by the public. And if something isn't working, to stop doing it. That's pretty general advice. So starting March 6th, this transit enters your 11th house, which is friends, hopes, and dreams. So the focus is shifting from the more practical aspect of what your career and tangible goals are to allowing yourself to indulge in some of your aspirations. You might feel your priorities shift, that work isn't really the highest point on your list, right? We get to a point where our focus shifts to cultivating our dreams. And I almost feel like there's like this fermentation process with what your dreams are. Like you have a goal, you have hopes for your future. All you have to do is really nurture it in that right kind of environment so that it can grow the way you want it to. So let's pick some cards and really get to the bottom of all of it. So I am really on a Chris Ann kick right now. I'm using all 3 of the decks that I have from her. And we're actually going to start with the curious creatures here. So we got these 2 here. So what is this Venus-Mars conjunction teaching you? Wow, we've got the Chariot. I love this. And we've got the 10 of Cups. So the Chariot is all about movement and really going forward. And despite whatever opposing forces you might have within yourself or inner conflict that you have, it's really about trusting that your intuition knows what you need, right? And that your dreams and your goals and whatever it is that your aspirations are that we were talking about are right, are meant for you. And it really here with the 10 of Cups, that really solidifies that, like having to really push forward and focus on what you know is going to be emotionally satisfying for you. And this is a 6-week-long transit of all of this, of just the Mars-Venus conjunction. I love this just because I'm an Aries. I noticed this. There's this little dog here, and it looks a lot like my little pup. So that is kind of the main theme for Venus and Mars, is making sure that you really follow your own intuitive gut that knows what is going to be emotionally satisfying for you. Let's see. What can you do? What can you actually do to make this movement happen? Hold on. I want this guy. Ace of Pentacles. Grounding exercises are going to be really important. Making sure, again, with those realistic goals, like we said for the 10th house, making sure that you set those really realistic but also creative goals. I love this Ace of Pentacles because it is very much a I don't know if self is the right word, but it's like a generative energy within yourself, that you are creating your own creativity, right? And so yes, you can be inspired by others, you can pull inspiration from the world around you, but it really is all rooted within you. So I almost feel like, and that is a very Aries theme of making sure that you can rely on yourself and really seeing that you create and you bring something of value to the table. And so I definitely feel like work-wise, work has been such a huge focus for you. And now you're shifting on to like, well, what do I actually want the future to look like? So maybe what you need to do right now is ground yourself, reconnect with those goals that you set for yourself, however long ago it was, or maybe there was like a new moon or full moon that you set really strong intentions, and let that grow. Like that fermentation that I was talking about, it really feels like she's just standing there and allowing these plants to grow on her. She's holding the space for this creativity to really flow. So I think it's important for you, Aries, to be able to shine and really let the creativity flow from within you, right? Like this Chariot and the 10 of Cups is all about it being from within you and then putting it outwards. The Chariot is very much a card of externalization, like there's external circumstances that are pulling you, and I think that you might have been very internalized recently and are finally allowing yourself to pour some of it out and maybe even show some other people exactly what you are cultivating and what you are fermenting and creating in your own little, like I feel like you have like this little sourdough starter of a project right now, and so now is really the time to let it fester and ferment and grow. All right, let's see what this Prism Oracle has to say. I'm going to pick 2 or 3, but sometimes the deck likes to pick how many want to come out. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I swear. That's so beautiful. I swear, this movement card has come out so many times when using this deck. You got movement and you got love. So keep moving forward with the things that you really love to do. It's all about this heart. The green and the pink, they both rule this heart chakra, this heart space of really coming from a place of appreciation for what you do. So let's see, one more card. Any messages from your guides that you have? These are pretty short because I hope you'll be listening to your top 3. So from your guides, you've got the 7 of Cups and the 6 of Swords. There's definitely a decision that you need to face, and you need to use your Aries boldness, your Aries ability to make that decision. And sometimes that means walking away from something that just doesn't serve you anymore. So right now you are really working on aligning yourself with the work goals and the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, your friend groups that really align with what you love to do, with who you want to be. And so your guides, I think, are sending this message of, yes, there is a decision and it may be tough, but the sooner that you make your choice, the sooner things are going to get better. So Aries, I'm sending you a lot of love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Alrighty, so for those Taurus heavy placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy in your 9th house of higher education, spiritual beliefs, and also like that search for truth. And I'm sure that the Venus retrograde in the 9th house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those themes. And then once it ended, Mars really asked you to take action that aligns with the new values that Venus gave you. So you may have found a more passionate understanding of what it means to be connected to your higher self. Or maybe some really important decisions were made about furthering your education. Otherwise, you may have just had a lot of focus on travel and that adventure-seeking attitude. So then starting March 6th, this transit enters your 10th house of career, reputation, and also of your social standing. So this passion really needs to be translated into what you believe your unique path is. The 10th house, people tend to see as just your career and your reputation, but what it really comes down to is what you believe that your purpose is. That 10th house has a lot of purpose energy. So what are your goals? What do you feel you were put here for? And how can you best achieve that? I would really urge you to ask questions and ask these questions and really make things happen with the answers that you discover. You know, there's really great potential to uncover your hidden ambitions without judgment so that then you can begin problem solving and bringing light to new ways of achieving those goals. So let's pick some cards, and I really want to get to the bottom of it all. So I am really on a Chris Ann kick right now. I'm going to start with the light seers. So what is this Venus-Mars? Like, how more specifically is it affecting you? Interesting. Okay, well, those are a little bit much. But first things first, we've got this Page of Swords. So almost schooling feels like it was really important for you. And if it wasn't like official school or a traditional school, it was your yearning of more information, of really taking in new information, learning new skills, learning new things about yourself, right? Self-actualization, even connecting to that higher self, meditating more, you know, finding your spiritual beliefs and really being open to whatever information comes your way. That is very Page of Swords to me. So this Mars Venus, and then we've got the moon. And this moon is number 18, and that number is just popping out to me right now. Anybody who has a birthday on the 18th, but also that's a 9. So there's sort of a cycle of your emotions, and the moon is all about your emotional cycle and just like that cyclical nature, that habitual nature that we all have. So I feel like maybe this is a really good time for you to really truly delve into how you feel. And with it going into your 10th house of how you feel the public sees you, or how you feel you want to contribute to society or contribute to your community, and showing up as that version of yourself every day, I think is really important. And as with Taurus placements, you're likely to be wanting to put in the work and, you know, have that determination to really put the work in, right? Venus is a ruling planet for you. So I feel like this Venus-Mars is a lot about the push and pull of trying to be really logical and rational and analytical, but also knowing that your emotions have a heavy influence on your life. And the emotions they don't have to be just like, I'm sad, I'm worried, I'm scared. It's just how you feel about your place, how you feel about your purpose, right? That purpose is really standing out to me right now. So that is what this Mars Venus is mostly about. We're going to look at this Prism Oracle deck. I freaking love this deck. Very recent addition to me. But let's see. Let's see what's really coming up for you. Here we go. Ghost and Passion. How's that for push and pull? Wow, that's really beautiful. Ghost is a version of a white card, and the Passion is this root chakra. So it's almost connecting your top and your bottom, really bringing them together. This sense of security, this sense of safety, and that 10th house really does rule like also an element of control, of wanting to be the lead and making sure that like you are seen as the leader. And so there's passion there, there's excitement, there's interest. That's Mars right there. But there's also this ghost, and it feels like there's a part of you that's hidden, right? And that you are hiding yourself. So maybe take a look at why you're afraid of stepping into the limelight. What about those emotions? What about this moon card is really speaking to you right now? And how can you continue to be really open to the information you're given without judging yourself, right? I talked about that earlier, of assessing what your goals are, assessing why those are your goals, and then assessing what you think of you assessing your goals. Like, what kind of judgment are you putting on yourself, and how can you really just wipe that away? So let's pull some cards from the Curious Creatures, which is on the floor with me for some reason. Any messages from your guides that really want to stand out? Here we go. Yeah. So we've got Death. And that, when I had that moon and it was that number 9, that kind of scorpionic rebirth theme came up for me. That there are some things you have to let go, some things that you're so used to having, and that cyclical, habitual like dependency that you put on certain things that you do need to let go of during this time. And maybe it is certain goals that you put on your list, or certain expectations that you've put on yourself. How can you really let go of certain perceptions that you have of yourself? And also, like I talked about, being seen by the public, or, you know, being seen in society. What sort of things can you let go of that you always thought you would be this way and you're not? And how can you really accept that about yourself? You know, I feel like there's a lot of judgment of self, and that is also something that just needs to be let go of. All right, let's pull one more. My goodness, I can't end on Death. Let's see. Although it feels very powerful, feels very strong. Let's see. Spirit guides, what kind of support? The 10 of Pentacles. Knowing that by doing that release, by letting go, by allowing yourself not to judge yourself and instead just be, which is such a Taurian quality of, I always think of the Taurus, and, you know, I have Taurus influences and I live with a very heavy Taurus placement person. And I always think of Taurus as that cow that's just happy sitting in the field and just content existing, right? There doesn't have to be anything else put onto it. And so I think that if you can achieve that point of seeing yourself in the exact light that you are in, and then letting the public see you for who you really are, or society, or whatever it is, then this really physical abundance will come to you too. And this could definitely be in work too, right? 10th house does rule that career, like we talked about. And so money could really be coming your way during this transit. So that's pretty exciting, Taurus. All right, I'm sending you guys a lot of love, and go check out your moon and rising, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. All right, so for those Gemini heavy placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy in your 8th house, which is death, it's karma, emotional repression, or any tendencies when it comes to your psyche. And the 8th house also really deals with like the hidden parts of life, whether that means the hidden parts of yourself or elements of your life that you tend to hide from others. And I'm sure that the Venus retrograde in this house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those themes. And then once that ended, Mars asked you to really take action that aligns with the new values you came out of that retrograde with. So maybe this was a really illuminating time in your therapy sessions, or maybe you were bringing to light some more repressed experiences, gaining comfort with some of your fears and hidden emotions, and maybe even your sexuality that's very 8th house. So starting March 6th, this transit enters your 9th house of higher education, spiritual beliefs, and your search for truth in whatever capacity that means for you. So this action-oriented way of healing could really translate over to your willingness to explore new things. Maybe travel is at the forefront of your mind, but even if it's not travel, it's an openness to understanding other perspectives. You could find that you meet a lot of different people that are from very different backgrounds from you. So be willing to listen to them and connect with them on a new level. You know, they may give you a new outlook, and especially after sitting in that 8th house energy, I'm sure that you could use some positivity and optimism from that 9th house of good fortune. So let's pick some cards and really get to the bottom of all of it. I am on a real Chris Ann kick right now, so I have all 3 of her decks on the table. Let's see what this Venus-Mars, how it is affecting you more personally. We're going to start with the Muse Tarot. Ooh, hello. The Page of Swords. That is literally very Gemini to me. And the 10 of Cups. How interesting. I think I actually got these cards out on a table together recently. So this Page of Swords here, she gives me Gemini energy. She's just willing to like, all right, let's do the research. Let's look into all of it. Let's communicate, but it's almost like she's communicating more with herself. She's not yet ready to open up to others. And that is sort of that 8th house energy of feeling very much like you have to keep it to yourself and you're not quite ready to shine the light on it to everybody else yet. I think the most important thing for you is to shine the light on it for just yourself and be able to open that conversation with yourself first, because sometimes that is the hardest thing to do, is to say, oh, wow, like, I'm finally admitting to myself that I'm having these certain feelings. I've been repressing these emotions. I've been, neglecting my sexuality or neglecting certain traumas in my life. So maybe finally being able to open up to yourself, and then eventually being able to really reach this capacity of comfort with your emotions, right? Not judging the way that you're feeling about them. And that openness, like I talked about with the 9th house, being really open to these perspectives. And maybe there's this way that you thought things would always be, but now Mars and Venus are going to illuminate this 9th house but it could also be this way. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. There's also just like this general excitement, right? She's putting on her glasses. I almost feel like she's about to study. She's about to go into school. She's like open and ready to learn new things with all the little dancing people around her head. Like, she's excited. She's ready. She's ready to start a new project, and it's a mental project, but it's something that she is bringing her like emotional self to, right? She's really invested in it emotionally. So let's pick the Prism Oracle. Let's pick some cards. I love this deck. So here we go. Ideation, death, and rest. Interesting. Ideation, death, and rest. I am curious about this ideation. Maybe I should read it from the thing. Here we go. You guys get the real unedited version. So let's see. Ideation. This card is about the growth of ideas and new projects in your life. Now is the time to focus on creating a safe space for your creative endeavors. This moment is just for you and your project. Let your ideas grow while you nurture and care for them. Enjoy this special time. So that's really interesting. New projects, opening up your mind, and also that idea of like fermentation, which came up a lot for Aries, of like cultivating a space that you can really allow your creative projects to flow. But I think that's also just the nature of Venus and Mars being conjunct each other, right? Venus is this little creator, big creator, and Mars is this action taker of movement forward, of making things happen with it. So it's really happening for you in this 9th house of spirituality, of higher education, of really seeking your truth and speaking your truth, whatever that means to you. So then you also got death and you got rest. And it's sort of interesting, like death is an ultimate rest if we want to get real dark about it. But it feels like there are certain things that can die off. That 8th house energy, that hiding yourself, that repression of self, that can die off. And there's actually so much rest that comes from speaking that truth to yourself, right? Admitting certain things to yourself, telling yourself, oh, this is what I've been hiding from myself. And then that sort of, that comes from that, right? That sigh of relief and that restfulness that gets to come from that. So let's have a little look at what it is that we've been hiding from ourselves. Two of Pentacles and Queen of Pentacles. It feels a lot like there's something about almost like doing things for yourself versus doing them for others. This Two of Pentacles is a lot of balancing out what you are creating and balancing out, like having a lot of different facilities or modalities in which you get to create, but really, and so you almost affirm everything but yourself. You know, you affirm everywhere else that you are putting work in, that, oh, it's because of them or because of that place that I can do what I do. But you have to acknowledge that you are this creative energy. You are this Gemini rising, this information seeking. Your ninth house is really activated of even higher information, of truer connection to your highest self. So really validating that you are the one putting in the work, and whatever else is assisting you, right? Like we want to have that gratitude for that space, that place, those people, whatever it is. But at the same time, if it weren't for you, your creations wouldn't have been made. So really holding gratitude for yourself. And I think that's something that some people tend to hide from themselves, is a confidence and an excitement and a willingness to accept praise, even if it is just from you. So that is really beautiful. I am hoping that was a good reading for you guys. I'm sending you guys a lot of love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. All right, Cancer. So for those Cancer heavy placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off quite heavy in your 7th house of relationships, of balance, of partnerships, and that could mean platonic, romantic, professional, it can be whatever. So I am sure that the Venus retrograde in this house gave you a lot to consider when it came to the themes of relationships. And then once that ended, Mars asked you to really take action that aligns with the new values that you were given by the end of it. So you may have experienced some serious shifts when it came to how you view the people in your life. Maybe some roles have shifted, or you've started setting boundaries with certain people, certain relationships. And there's also this air of respect that comes with these Capricorn placements in the 7th house. You know, have you been demanding the respect that you deserve? Or do you feel like you've been taking care of everybody else and giving them the respect? So starting March 6th, this transit enters your 8th house of karma, of death, of emotional repression, and just generally those more hidden or taboo aspects of life. Taboo being things that you don't comfortably speak about with others. So this time is likely to illuminate some more repressed experiences. And there's a lot of potential for gaining comfort with some of those fears and your hidden emotions. So make sure that you set aside time to really take care of yourself in between those stronger moments of healing, so that, you know, you don't shock your system. You're likely very well equipped to handle these more emotional moments because you have that Cancer energy, but even then you don't want to inundate yourself. You may not even notice that there's healing going on because this could be a really subconscious time for you. So let me know what you're going through in the comments. I feel like support is going to be a really big element for you during this time. You've shifted from possibly setting these boundaries to then feeling safe enough to ask for support. And that is a really beautiful thing. So let's pick some cards and really get to the bottom of all of this. I have a lot of Chris Ann decks down here. I have all of them. So we're going to start with the Curious Creatures. So what is this Venus-Mars influence for you right now? Wow, that is so interesting. 6 of Wands and the 8 of Cups. Yeah, so it definitely feels like it's shifting from the 6 of Wands to the 8 of Cups. So the 6 of Wands energy, it's like it's the Cancer show. It is all about you and your relationships and how you fit into them or how they fit into them. And we're sort of shifting from this like almost open communication, like I'm running the show, I am setting the boundaries, to this 8 of Cups, where now it's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not prepared to really sit with all of these emotions. I don't want to think about it, and I don't want to like express them openly, right? So there's almost a stepping away emotionally. Just make sure that by stepping away from the communication of emotions, that you're not also stepping away from your emotional relationships, you know, that you're not stepping away from emotionally fulfilling relationships or potential for emotional growth, right? That 8th house makes us want to hide a little bit, and especially with the Cancer rising, sometimes you might have a tendency to really self-protect and self-preserve, but it could be some really awesome growth if you just allow yourself to open up a little bit more in your relationships or wherever else this does come up for you, right? If karma's coming up, if the idea of sexuality is coming up a lot. So, all right, let's pick some cards from the Prism Oracle deck. Let's see, what is the major thing here? Wow. Wow, Cancer, this is really beautiful. First off, you've got magic. There is pure magic that is happening in this 8th house transit for you. And the 8th house does rule the occult, right? It rules taboo, and for so long, and I think still to this day, there's an element of taboo when you talk about these sort of things like tarot or astrology or any sort of occult conversations. There's people who try and like hide themselves from that talk. So just know, like, leaning into the magic is really important for you. You got peace, that there's a peacefulness when it comes to really opening up to that magic that you have within yourself. And then you got abundance, that seriously, if you're able to, instead of taking that really hidden approach to the 8th house, to taking a more cathartic approach, really being able to say, all right, I'm into this. I'm leaning into the discomfort of everything that I'm experiencing right now. And that gives you like a real-time experience of healing, you know, rather than repressing and then dissociating, and then later after the fact you say, okay, I guess I got to heal from this experience. Heal in real time. Let yourself experience whatever pain, sadness, repression, difficulty that you are feeling, so that then you can heal from it as you go along, rather than building habits, right? Through trauma, we start to, if we dissociate or if we repress certain traumas, then we start to build habits out of our fears because of that trauma. And so instead of letting it sit and fester within yourself, to say, hey, this is really traumatic for me, or this is a trigger and I'm really struggling with this, and bringing Mars and Venus into the situation, right? Venus wants the balance, but Mars wants to make sure that something gets done. So I think that's going to be really important for you, Cancer. All right, let's see what else we have. Let's pull from the Muse Tarot. What else have we got going on? Any other messages we need to know about? Wow. Wow. So we've got Justice and we've got the Tower. This is really interesting. I would definitely watch how the rest of this transit goes on for you. I mean, it's going on till March 27th, and that's with a really small orb, so it could even be lasting, it could be lasting longer. But there's almost like there's a shedding of this old version of yourself, and I think there's also a shedding of people-pleasing that you might not have known that existed within you until this transit started on like February, but now you're realizing just how often you might pander to other people, and setting those boundaries was really important for you, and saying like, actually, I demand respect for myself, having to prioritize yourself. And Justice is ruled by Libra, and also that 7th house, very Justice, having to make sure that you are being spoken up for, preferably by yourself. And this might shock some people around you that are so used to you doing things and so used to your people pleasing and have benefited from your people pleasing and maybe even taken advantage of those qualities that you have. So I think that's a really important thing for you to continue setting those boundaries. And that 8th house says a lot about control and of power, but it's not a control and power that like Capricorn has, that is like, I am the leader, I am the boss. It's more of a hidden desire to be in control. But sometimes that 8th house or even Scorpio people will like not show that they actually do want control. They'll just like let it fester within themselves. That's that hidden version that I'm sort of alluding to. So just watch out that your words and how you're setting those boundaries, they're good for you. It's great for you. You need to continue doing that. But you might not realize just how shocking that might be to other people, because they're so used to you being such a compassionate person. It doesn't mean you don't have to be compassionate anymore. It just means that you have to prioritize yourself. And there might be some deeper feelings that bubble up from that scenario. So, Cancer, I hope that was helpful. I'm sending you guys a lot of love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. All right, so for those Leo heavy placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy in your 6th house of mental health, routine, anything to do with pets, and also that physical health. So I am sure that Venus retrograde in the 6th house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those themes, because I know for myself as a Leo rising, I definitely felt it. And then once that ended, Mars is asking you to really take action that aligns with the new values given to you by Venus. So you may have felt some new responsibility or determination to really figure out that daily routine that works for you. Or, maybe it was a really good time for you to focus on matters of health, mental and physical. So also, if you're like me, maybe you got a new pet, which again speaks on taking on new responsibilities. So then starting March 6th, this transit enters your 7th house of relationships and balance. You might experience some serious shifts when it comes to how you view the people in your life. Maybe some roles will shift, or, you'll start setting certain boundaries with certain people. And I also think for those with Aquarius on the 7th house that your relationships may look odd to other people, but as long as they work for you, that is what really matters. But I would still urge you to ask yourself if they do work for you, and if so, what about them is working? What elements of your relationships could you continue healing through? And how can you make that movement really happen? That's what Mars really wants to know. So it is a time to be decisive in your relationships, and those decisions come from a deep-seated need to live in balance and harmony. So let's pick some cards, and I want to get to the bottom of all of it. I have 3 Chris Ann decks down on the table. We're going to start with the light seers. So let's see what this Venus-Mars, what we are shifting from and shifting to. Okay, so shifting from the 7 of Pentacles, this makes a lot of sense, the 6th house being sort of the house of Virgo, if you look at it that way. Really cultivating, making sure you're putting in the work, and a lot of it is quite personal too. And you'll notice that I didn't really say anything about the 6th house being like your work, your daily work routine, just because I think the 10th and even the 2nd house can speak more to work. 6th house rules what you do every day. It rules the mundane, and we do work every day, so that is a big part of it. And so maybe even there was a big shift when it came to your work style or your daily routine of how you begin working, or, your schedule for work or your commute to work. Anyway, talking about those, saying work a lot. But also with the 7 of Pentacles, it feels like there is this need for growth, and you've been seeking this growth, and Venus retrograde really asked you to assess what you want out of your day-to-day routine, what you want out of your mental health and your physical health and even your pets, So that is what we are shifting from. That is sort of what we've been focusing on, but it's a very personal card. The 7 is that number of your personal path, of your individuality, and of honest self-reflection. So moving on from March 6th on, we have this Knight of Cups, which is so appropriate for the 7th house. Knight of Cups to me is all about like romantic pursuit, but romantic doesn't have to be, and just like Venus rules relationships, sure, if you want to know about relationships, we'll look at Venus, but Venus also rules just like that desire aspect of what it is that you actually want. What is it that you desire? What is it that you want purely because it makes you feel good, not for any other reason? And so I think there's a big shift in your relationships of saying, actually, this is what I really want. I finally discovered what I want. Are you willing to do that with me? And again, it might be really weird, right? That Aquarius energy of it might be really progressive, or it might be not what everybody expects from you. But that doesn't matter as long as it works for you. That is what really matters. Works for both of you, obviously. But I do think that the shift into Aquarius for Mars and Venus is going to give you this opportunity to say, hey, you might think this is odd, but I finally realized this is what's going to make my Venus self really happy. And when it comes to a Leo rising, there's a lot of importance placed on making sure that you get your heart's desires fulfilled. So let's see what comes out of this Prism Oracle deck. I love this one. It's very new to me, but it is beautiful. So let's see. Here we go. Disruption. Yeah, that's Aquarian to me. Growth. Anxiety. Great. So I don't know about you guys, but for me with my Leo rising, This going through my 6th house and having Venus retrograde in my 6th house with all that other Capricorn energy, my anxiety went through the roof. And that is such a 6th house thing. It's mental health is so big in the 6th and in the 12th house. And so for me, there's a big focus on, okay, let's pull back and make sure that I can really focus on what is going to help my anxiety here. Not looking for any sort of cure, but just trying to say like, okay, I'm really anxious about this situation. How do I make myself feel better that is also a healthy way, you know, rather than just like numbing or disrupting, whatever. And I say disrupt because this disruption card came up. And I think that maybe asking for what you want feels like a disruption to you. And I say that just because the 7th house energy, there's so much focus on everybody else. But, you know, you Leo rising, like I said, you do have to focus on what it is that you want. And so it might feel like a disruption. But again, leaning into the discomfort of that has been such a huge theme for quite a while now. Of really leaning into the discomfort and leaning into that disruption. And, you know, you can't have disruption without growth. I say this all the time, usually in regards to the Tower card. But if you look at this plant that's breaking through the soil, that's a disruption of the soil. Disruption doesn't always have to be bad. Disruption means that there's growth. And so leaning into discomfort, that is the best place to really allow yourself to grow or ascend or, you know, raise up a level in your healing. So I think that's really beautiful. Let's see, what else? What other messages do we have from your guides? Leo rising and Leo sun and moon. What else do we have? Oh, the Queen of Cups. It's okay to sit in your feelings, and it's okay to be anxious. You got the 10 of Swords too. It is okay to sit in your feelings. It doesn't have to be bad. I'm really feeling like the sweet energy. Like, you know, just because you have feelings doesn't mean that you're a mess. You know, just let yourself feel that out. And that's pretty much as plain as that message is going to come, because that's just exactly what it is. Your guides are sort of saying, like, we can feel your anxiety, we can feel your fears, we can feel this going into the 7th house of everybody else, maybe even projecting those fears onto other people, projecting your worries, projecting your anxieties, just projecting in general, placing the anxiety that's within you on top of other people. You don't have to do that. Instead, it's really about disrupting the anxiety in its tracks and allowing yourself to grow from it. Just literally these 3 Prism Oracle cards are saying, like, disrupt that anxiety so that you can really freaking grow. And that is absolutely beautiful. I'm really excited for you, Leos. Let me know in the comments what's going on if you're comfortable. If not, I understand, but just know this Queen of Cups wants you to share. Not to me, it doesn't have to be to me, but it is important for you to really share with 7th house, to share with other people what you're experiencing, especially if it is mental health, especially if it is your physical health, or even just like worrying about your day-to-day routines. Your day-to-day is a big part of your life. Even if it feels like it's small things, it adds up, right? Every single day of mundane activities, that adds up, and it can add daily stress. So communicating that to the people that love you and that you love, really important, even if it feels totally weird to do. So I'm sending you a lot of love. I'm wishing you the best, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Okay, so for those heavy Virgo placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off quite heavy in your 5th house, which is expression, it's children, it's joy, it's just a general sitting in a childlike sense of wonder. And I am sure that Venus retrograde in this house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those themes. And then once that ended, Mars asked you to really take action that aligned with the new values. So you may have felt like there was even a lack of this expressive joy because you were being asked to be responsible and dutiful by all those Capricorn placements. So for some of you, Mars and Venus moving into Aquarius might feel like actually a lightening of the load that you've been carrying, or like maybe you're actually able to embody some of that childlikeness through your work or through fulfilling any sense of purpose that you have. And just to say, this could be a really good time, or could have been a really good time, to think about conceiving or starting your family. So then starting March 6th, the transit enters your 6th house of mental health, routine, day-to-day, which could be your job, and then also that physical health. So you may feel like you need to reinvent the way that you go about your everyday. So try experimenting with new routines, even if it feels as simple as like buying new coffee grounds or changing up your breakfasts throughout the week, giving yourself a little more variety. I just feel like there's some spicing up that needs to happen for you to feel like you're living in that joyful place. And this time could also be really great for any new discoveries about your mental patterns. So let's pick some cards. Let's get to the bottom of it, see what they have to say. And I'm curious about those mental patterns. You know, what is your mental health saying about that? 6 of Pentacles into the 8 of Swords. Interesting. So from the 5th house into the 6th house, you've got this 6 of materials, 6 of Pentacles, but I was sort of asking about those mental patterns when that card jumped out. So it almost feels like a reflection of self is really important, which is funny because 5th house very much is a mirror to me. It's sort of like I'm going to express myself fully, and sometimes you want to see that in a mirror. You want to see your expressions. That's why artists, you know, make art, or why some of them do anyway, so that they can see their expression out on a canvas or, you know, whatever your medium is. So it's almost like you get to really express and see that joy. And also, like I was saying about starting a family, you know, creating a little mini you, creating another version of you in a whole other body with whole other mentalities and habits and, you know, all of that. So that's really interesting that going from that, I feel like even this 5th house time over the last few weeks was a really reflective time for you. And maybe it was really playful. Maybe you did get to have that childlikeness within yourself. And moving into the 6th house, you've got this 8 of Swords, which is actually quite interesting to me. Not what I expected to see at all. So maybe the pressure of reinvent your everyday is getting to you, and whenever pressure is applied to you, you sort of shut down. So what you need to do is make sure that you don't put too much pressure on yourself. Otherwise you will shut down and then you won't get anything done. So maybe just seeing a couple of things that you could do, right? Filtering your vision. That's what I really see here, is she is filtering her vision. So she doesn't see the whole picture. She just sees a little bit of it. And maybe that's actually helping her. Often when I get the 8 of Swords, it's saying like, you know, you're blinding yourself, you're blindfolding yourself, you're not letting yourself see the whole truth. But maybe that is what is most helpful for you during this 6th house transit. I know for myself, I'm a Leo rising, so I just had all of that Capricorn going through my 6th house, and it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with, and I think it was because it was also in Capricorn. You do have it in Aquarius, so it could really be unpredictable, right? We have no idea how it can show up. All we know is that we have to be really prepared for it. So I'm going to pull some cards from the Prism Oracle. See what's up for you. Virgo rising. Here's one guy. Space. Wow, look at that card. Holding space. And I don't know why, but this deck only wanted to jump out only one card. So that's so interesting, this completely blank card. Space, holding space. And holding space has been a really big theme lately of, you know, being completely silent. And especially when I'm in a session or something, I've learned the beauty and the value of being silent, just to hold the space for you or for a client to communicate what's really going on for them, right? And letting you really do all of the work yourself. I'm just a facilitator. So there's something about holding space, letting yourself communicate. I think maybe if you're not in therapy or getting some sort of professional help, it would be a really good time. And even if it's not therapy, you know, allowing yourself to express and allowing yourself to admit that maybe even that expression and that joy and that living joyfully felt really good. It's okay if that's what felt good, right? That would be silly if it wasn't. So allow yourself to hold the space, to filter your vision, right? Not putting so many expectations on yourself to make every day this whole new thing. You know, Venus and Mars are having this really big push and pull, this really big, you know, they sort of both want to monopolize the energy of Aquarius, but they have to share it. So Venus really wants to indulge, it wants to be soft, it wants to have desire and reach those desires just to feel good. And Mars wants to move forward, take action, make results, you know? And that's something I think they both have in common, is trying to make results happen. So let's actually pull a card for what results are we hoping for during this time, during this transit. We've got the Fool 2.0 and the 3 of Cups. A starting again. a starting again in your community, a starting again almost with, I feel like this is family or really close friends, which I know has nothing to do with 6th house, but for you, Virgo rising, that's sort of what is coming up for you. And usually the Fool is like, great, new beginning, new journey. This is the Fool 2.0. So it's really all about starting over again. Have you fallen? Get back up. That's what this is really about for you. Have you fallen? Get back up. Did you hurt yourself? Heal it. That's like, it's so simple, just like that. So Virgo rising, I hope that was helpful for you. It seems very vague, but it feels like there's also a part of you that's pulling back and pulling away and not really fully open about that expression that you're going through. So that's something to work on. How can you really fully embody that expression of self? You know, it doesn't mean dyeing your hair, it doesn't mean getting some piercings, it doesn't mean buying new clothes, that you can really feel like you are presenting yourself, that you, how you feel on the inside. And then that 6th house, how can you implement those feelings of true reflection in your everyday, journaling every day, filtering how you can be yourself in little moments rather than saying like really big statements, you know, just little by little, really expressing yourself. So I am sending you guys a lot of love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Okay, Libra. So for those heavy Libra placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy in the 4th house of emotions, themes of security, mothers, whether that means you as a mother or your mother. So I'm sure that the Venus retrograde in the 4th house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those exact themes. And then once that ended, Mars asked you to really take action that aligned with the new values that this Venus retrograde really provided for you. So you likely felt a push and pull when it came to your emotions, you know, like there were more layers to uncover before fully understanding what you were experiencing. And maybe this was a time of healing your relationship with your parents, or diving into maybe some more memories from your childhood, whether they were pleasant or provoked, and, you know, or, you know, they provoked some sense of a need for healing. And in any case, you may have felt that really extra push to address some of your more foundational emotions and to then bring them to the surface. So starting March 6th, this transit enters the 5th house of expression of self, of children, of joy, and this push and pull can move into that outlet of expressive joy. So for some of you, Mars and Venus moving into Aquarius may feel like you have a lightening of a load that you've been carrying, because that 5th house is known to be the house of good spirits. It is a great time to embody some of that childlikeness, despite maybe feeling like you're standing out. So choose to stand out. Let's pick some cards. I really want to get to the bottom of all of this. We're going to pull some cards. Let's see, which deck. Let's do the Light Seers. I have 3 decks, and they're all from Chris Ann, except the Oracle deck. So let's see what we are shifting from and to. Well, this guy, from the Queen of Pentacles into the 3 of Wands. How interesting. So Libra rising, first of all, you guys all have great skin, so that's amazing. Libra rising can sometimes tend to hide from the messiness and hide from the stickiness, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's sort of just the way it is in my experience. And so this Queen of Pentacles ruling that 4th house of that Capricorn, the Venus retrograde, and Mars and Venus now being conjunct in Capricorn in your 4th house, there's almost this element of keeping it all together and having that sense of stoicism, right? You're ruled by Venus, which also rules Taurus. And so Libra can sometimes be very stoic, and it's very graceful, very beautiful, just like this Queen of Pentacles here. And so there's this element of trying to keep all of the emotions together, and that's what I think that the 4th house transits were all about for you, is maybe you really have to hold it all together, or maybe there's an element of, hey, you can release some of that control, you can release some of the need to keep it all together, and instead just sit in the feels for a little bit. And now we're shifting into this 3 of Wands energy for the 5th house of childlikeness, of excitement, of a sense of wonder, of expression of self, of artistic expression. And really the 3 of Wands, especially this one, is all about seeking outer adventure, or seeking thrill, or seeking excitement. So maybe this is really going to be a good time for you to seek that joy and seek that excitement elsewhere. And instead of having, you know, Mars is a difficult planet for some Libra placements, because Mars is all about decisiveness, about movement, of action, of being bold. And Libra tends to keep things nice and moderate so that there's a good balance. So this is possibly going to push you to get out of that comfort zone of balance and instead to make some bold choices, do things that are just for you. The 5th house is one of the houses that rules self because it rules the expression of self, which can rule how you adorn yourself, how you put things on your body, how you dress your hair, how you put makeup on, right? That is all a way to express yourself on the outside, the way that you feel on the inside. So try experimenting. It's going to be an Aquarius. I mean, if there's one sign that's meant for experimenting, I feel like Aquarius is it. Try and push the boundaries and do something different. All of this Capricorn of keeping it together and being stern and being disciplined, moving into Aquarius of let's just change it up and let's be different and let's switch it up. That I think is going to be a really cool, there's a lot of potential for growth and like self-expression there. So let's see what the Prism Oracle deck says for you. Well, this one. Creativity. Yes, the 5th house. Thank you. That is definitely a word that I was missing. Creativity, a sense of creativity, strength. Also, the 5th house is the house of Leo, if you look at it that way. And that is the lion, and that is strength. And even in tarot, the strength card is ruled by Leo. So that 5th house energy is really coming through. This is so beautiful because this is purple. It's right at the crown, and then the red, which is right at the root. So it's really bringing together this highest version and then this like basic version, the primal version of yourself, and bringing them together. There's one other pile that actually had that exact imagery too, of really pulling it all together and then meeting in the middle, right in the solar plexus of your power, of your ability to create and be creative. So really I just really want you to get out there, especially for Libra risings where this is happening exactly in the 5th house, if you use the whole sign system. This is just so prevalent. Really do things to express yourself. Try new things. Try to make ugly art. That's something that's really fun, especially like I enjoy doing that. Make art that's ugly that no one else likes, but that you like because it is unique to you. It is an expression of who you are, and really getting to put that out on something and not worrying about how it looks or what other people will think. That is something so truly special for you to experience just for yourself, and then take it another level and share it on social media. Show it to people that you know you don't care if other people think your expression of self is ugly, because it feels more aligned to who you are. And that's what this like pull from the primal root chakra of fear, of lack of security, of feeling of not fitting in, and then pulling it from this crown of your divine self, your highest self, being your most true self, pulling them together, being your most true self and not being afraid of what anybody else thinks. That is really what this is about, is being able to express yourself, being that childlike version of yourself, being that inner child that feels like she really wants to come out and express. That is beautiful. Wow, that really energized me. Let's see what else is coming up. Any more messages from your guides before we move on? 3 cards. All right. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. You got strength again. So literally, here are those vibes, that Leo energy. Let me know if you have any Leo heavy placements too, because this Libra pile feels very Leo heavy. And I know that because it's in the 5th house, so it makes sense, but I'm just curious if there's any more Leo placements in there too. And if so, go listen to the Leo pile because it might resonate with you as well. And then we've got the 7 of Wands, 7 of Inspiration, and the 9 of Cups. Pushing the boundaries. Pushing away also the BS around you, any sort of bullshit, any sort of things people are spewing at you, any sort of expectations people are putting on you of what they think you should be. Pushing that away and just being yourself, being whatever colors you want yourself to be. And this 9 of Cups, coming from a place of true emotional fulfillment, coming from a place of emotional connection with self, putting in your wishes. That's the 9 of Cups, is the wish card. And knowing that they can come true, right? And just saying like, wow, these are my wishes and they're unique to me. That's amazing. Nobody else is like you. You are the only one like you. So that is super exciting, Libra rising. I hope that was helpful for you. I'm sending you guys a lot of love. Let me know in the comments below what is going on. And make ugly art. That's literally, if you get anything from this pile, make ugly art. So I will see you guys next time. Bye. All right, so for those heavy Scorpio placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off heavy in the third house of communication, of mental stimulation, early education, and also just that local community, right? Your neighborhood. So I'm sure that the Venus retrograde in the third house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those themes. And then once that ended, Mars asked you to take action that aligns with your new values given by Venus and by its retrograde. So perhaps you felt a sudden push to be a more integral part of your community, or maybe you started focusing a lot more on your communication styles. Maybe even siblings were a big focal point. The third house rules your siblings too, you know? So this really was such a time of putting your words out there and speaking your version of the truth. I feel like there's some people out there who had blockages in this throat area, and this Venus-Mars conjunction or being together really lit up the desire to speak and not to quiet the self any longer. So then, starting March 6th, this transit enters your fourth house of emotions, themes of security, of moms, whether that's you as a mom or your mom. So you may feel this push and pull when it came to your emotions, like there are more layers to uncover before fully understanding what you're experiencing. Maybe this is even like a time of healing your relationship with one of your parents, or diving into childhood memories, you know, whether they were pleasant or maybe they provoked a need for healing. So in any case, you may feel that extra push to address some of the more foundational emotions and then to bring them to the surface and really uncover where they stem from, the root of it all. So let's pick some cards and get to the bottom of all of it. I have all of these decks down on the table. We're going to start with the Muse Tarot. So I like to look at the shift from the first house to the second. So for you, that would be from the third house, and a card just fell out, to the fourth house, Night of Inspiration. So for the third house of where this began, we got the Devil, ruled by Capricorn. So all of those planets that were in Capricorn at the time being in your third house of communication, I think there were restrictions that you were putting on yourself. And I almost feel like this has been going on for like 4 or 5 years of learning how to speak up for yourself. And even if it's not prevalent or hasn't been something you've been actively working on, it feels like subconsciously you've been working on this ability to speak and this ability to present yourself to your local community, to present your desires, present your values to the local community, to your siblings, to those people that are around you all of the time, right? Like your neighborhood. Think of that as the vibe. So we're going from the Devil, which is this restriction and fear-based communication style, right? So what are you afraid will happen if you decide to actually speak your truth in your local, in your nearest vicinity? You know, who do you feel like is going to scrutinize you the most when you are communicating what you need, or communicating anything really, when you're communicating? And so then we're moving on to the Night of Inspiration for this all in your fourth house, Scorpio rising and Scorpio placements. The Night of Inspiration, that is a Sagittarius card, so it's kind of interesting. I feel like maybe there's some Sag influence in your life right now. I think I said that pretty recently in another video too. So interesting for the fourth house of emotion, Night of Inspiration, being really open to what your emotions have to say, being really open to your early childhood, allowing yourself maybe even some freedom, right? If you have Aquarius on that fourth house and you've got this Mars-Venus conjunction going through that fourth house, and Sagittarius, this Night of Inspiration, like look at this horse, so free, so liberated. You know, so maybe there's an element of having to seek freedom when it comes to your emotional ties, either with your parents, maybe your mom. That early childhood stuff is really coming up. Like the third house is about early education. It's about the siblings, because those are your like earliest friends or earliest allies. And then going into the fourth house, which is your early childhood, it's your relationship to your parents. So maybe there's a need to seek, or a need to find freedom when it comes to those roots, to your foundation, to where you really started to find yourself or to discover yourself. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see what the Prism Oracle has to say. That bottom card wanted to be seen, so it'll be really interesting if that one pops out. Rejection, interesting. Let's see what else. And cleanse, interesting. So the rejection really rang true for me. I feel like there is a fear of rejection based off of your early childhood memories or early experiences in your childhood. And for a Scorpio heavy placement person, that that runs really deep. That really strikes a deep chord within Scorpio, just because it's so, there's like this root of feeling afraid and not wanting to show that you're afraid. And then that means that there's even a stronger vulnerability with that. And so there's like, look at these two cards, how very opposite they are to each other. This idea of rejection, that hard X, it's a red color. And then we've got cleanse, which is this nice soft circle, a nice easy blue. Like, look at how nicely you can allow yourself to like clean out that fear. And that's all that fourth house, that foundation, that emotional foundational self that you have within you, where those fears came up, where your sense of rejection or your fears of rejection or worries that you're going to be rejected are really coming up. I feel like I'm sort of swimming around, because I feel like for you, Scorpio, that you don't have like a firm grasp on what it is you're feeling right now. And there's a lot of worry that if you open that, just so much more is going to come out. Allow yourself to work on one thing at a time, right? I know this Night of Inspiration is like charging forward and going to do it all. I think for you, it's much more important to be methodical and be reasonable with how much you expect yourself to get done. And so just working on this sense of rejection, of fear of rejection. Who do you feel is going to reject you? Where did that come from? And what is the worst thing that would happen if somebody did reject you? In any capacity, in romantic relationships, in work, and friendships, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen if somebody rejected you? And you will bounce back, because you have that resilience. With that Devil card just screaming at me right now, and this Night of Inspiration too even, there's such a resilience of, I will always bounce back from this. It just means that you might have to cut ties, right? In whatever capacity. It could be in a relationship, or it could be cutting ties within yourself. So let's see what else we've got. Any more messages from guides? Whew. 8 of Wands. Yeah, don't feel rushed. And the Page of Swords. This 8 of Wands, though, that's like all you really need. Look at this. The 8 of Wands is usually such fast movement. And usually with an 8 of Wands, I'd be like, okay, I guess you really need to be moving forward. This is a freaking turtle, though. You don't have to rush things. You don't have to make things go faster than feels natural. Let the turtle be the turtle. Let the turtle have its own pace. So let yourself go at your own pace. You don't have to force yourself, right? Just because you feel this restriction of the devil on you, if you have like Saturn placements that are going on right now, just because you feel that so heavily, like weighing you down, doesn't mean that you have to take the weight off of your shoulder and assess every single block of weight, right? Take the weight off of your shoulder, let some of it rest behind you, and then pull one block out. Right now, like I said, with the rejection, like what sort of themes of rejection am I experiencing right now? What sort of fears am I experiencing when it comes to rejection, and so on and so forth. So let yourself go at your own pace. That is really, really important, Scorpio. All right. I hope that was helpful. I'm sending you a lot of love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Sag rising. Okay. So for those heavy Sagittarius placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy with the second house of finances, of the idea of stability, physical vitality, and also just your general core values. I am sure that the Venus retrograde in the second house gave you a lot to consider when it came to those exact themes. And then once it ended, Mars asked you to take action that aligned with the new values. Doubly so because the second house is the ruler of values. So you may have been compelled to really sit in what you find to be valuable, of what you need to honor, which could include your own personal finances, how you spend your money, how you earn your money, or on a less like tangible front, what or who you allow into your personal and sacred space. So starting March 6th, this transit enters that third house of communication, mental stimulation, early education, local community. So you might feel a sudden push to be a much more integral part of your community, or to start focusing a lot more on how you communicate. And maybe even siblings are a big focal point, right? The third house rules siblings. So which is such a little fun random rulership. So this really is a time of putting your words out there and speaking your version of the truth, especially because these planets are in the sign of Aquarius. Finding some courage to express your unique vision is what your community can be, or of what your community can be. I feel like there are some people out there who are really blocked in this throat area, the communication center, and that Venus-Mars could seriously light up this desire to speak and not to quiet yourself any longer. So I want to pull some cards. I have these 3 Chrysan decks down here. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I want to look first, I'm going to use the Curious Creatures to start. I'm going to look first at where it was sitting and how that energy was when sitting in your 2nd house, and then how it's going to be shifting into the 3rd house. That's how that's going to sit. So this 2nd house, we've got the 7 of Cups, interesting. And then in the 3rd, we've got the High Priestess. How beautiful. And she literally, both of them, I'm so excited. Both of them have their hands on their throats. So speaking of your truth, speaking your truth is going to be really important. That 2nd house of this all being in that Mars, or that Mars-Venus being in Capricorn, being in the 2nd house, of really putting forward the values that you hold very dear to who you are. The 7 of Cups is sort of saying, like, here are the many things. It's time for you to prioritize. So I think it was really important for you to prioritize what really matters to you and what you do find valuable. I literally don't stop talking about it, but above this little shelf here, I have a little sign that says compassion, truth, and empowerment, because those are the 3 values that I carry with me everywhere that I go. Anytime I have a session, anytime that I'm, just having quality time with people, I always make sure to have those 3 values in my heart and in my head, in my throat, throughout my entire body, so that I'm always embodying what I value most. And I think for you, there was a big thing about prioritizing for yourself. So moving into the 3rd house of your communication styles, the High Priestess. This is absolutely amazing. Really communicating not just with others completely openly and honestly, but with your own divine self. Speaking freely, speaking openly to yourself without judgment of what comes through, without the ego that's really pushing, whatever agenda it has. Whatever, like ego can talk on like, well, I want this, I want that, and it's not for the right reason. So communicating with yourself, but then relaying those messages to other people too, and making sure that you are having this open communication style that's really aligned with your true values to other people, so that people can see who you really are, and people can see who you really want to be, because you are embodying who you really want to be. I always say, and I've been saying this a lot recently, of, in certain situations where there's a reaction, and instead of reacting, we want to respond like the person, or respond like the version of yourself that you want to be, because then you become that version of yourself. We all have this like ideal version of who we want to be, and sometimes it's not realistic, and you have to watch that. But I feel like for the most part, it's like, okay, right now I might not be feeling especially empowering, but I know that I value empowerment, and I want to be that person that empowers. So I am going to empower right now, So let's see what the Prism Oracle deck has to say about this. Sag rising. We've got comfort. Interesting. And protection. Okay, so that 2nd house idea of protecting your values, of having maybe a harder shell around you, and making sure that you're really comfortable, that is very 2nd house. These are both coming up. And speaking your truth means that sometimes you have to be in an uncomfortable position, or it sometimes means that you make other people uncomfortable. But sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, and we have to be okay with that. We have to accept that. So speaking up for yourself, and I only am sticking to that because both of them, with their hands on their throats, they're really trying to like bring out what they want to say. That throat chakra is so activated here. It's like really incredible. So making sure that your truth always comes first, despite comfort levels, despite how it might affect. You want to make sure that you are, taking care of how it's going to affect other people. But if you are holding something back that is really important for you to express, to talk about, to communicate, you have to do that, whether or not it's comfortable. And that self-protection, how much are you really protecting yourself by not speaking your truth? If somebody is hurting your feelings and your truth is that it doesn't align with theirs, how much are you really protecting yourself? Because you're still allowing somebody to hurt your feelings, just as an example. So let's see what other messages come from your guides. Let's actually do light seers for this. What other messages do we have from our guides here? Oh, hello. Well, this is such a Sag card. We've got the Two of Wands. Looking for new options, looking for new options. That's it. Like, even she's looking out, but she still has an empty apartment. And I usually see this as like she's about to embark on a trip, but I feel like right now it's like she's settled and she has settled into her new apartment, and yet she's still looking out. That grass is always greener mentality, or, you know, bigger is bigger for Sagittarius, that like, I have to be doing something huge and grand right now. It's not true. You could just be doing something just for yourself right now, rather than focusing so much on like how to, I don't know, the bigger picture in some way is really being activated here. Let's see what else is here from your guides. Maybe something a little clearer. The King of Swords. How's that for really owning your truth? Not even speaking it, but just embodying it and owning it and not being afraid of it. So maybe there's some sitting with yourself that needs to happen, but I would say that more for the Queen of Swords. The King of Swords, he takes action and he doesn't second guess. He doesn't doubt himself. He doesn't doubt his thoughts. So don't doubt your truth. I do feel like there might be someone here who's experiencing something quite difficult, and, you know, having to admit to somebody their difficult experience, you know, maybe you feel invalidated in your experience. And speaking your truth is going to allow you to feel valid. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling, but like thinking about how all of these creatures here are winged, and that freedom that they could have. Some of them are flying and some of them aren't. In fact, I think it's just the bat that's flying and he's like translucent. All of these winged creatures are settled and are sat and like not moving. I think it's important for you to move, and it's important for you to like let your wings move and really speak that truth. I don't know if these analogies are working for you guys, but that is what I got. So I hope that was helpful for you. I'm sending you guys a lot of love. I really feel like there's so much growth that could happen here. So I will see you guys next time, but let me know in the comments what's going on and how this resonated. So bye. All right, so for those heavy Capricorn placements, namely Cap rising, but also Sun and Moon, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy in that first house. The first house is the house of self and everything that has to do with it. How you perceive yourself, how you present yourself, how you accept yourself. So I am absolutely sure that this Venus retrograde in this house gave you so much to consider, especially when it comes to that sense of self. And then once that ended, Mars is asking you to really take a lot of action that aligns with the new values that Venus retrograde provided. So this was definitely an intense time for you. Not to mention you're already experiencing the long transit of Pluto through your first house. So you're probably tired. There is so much push and pull, especially when it comes to your sense of self and the connection to yourself. And you may be feeling these feelings of wanting to really indulge and implement a lot of self-care, and then really suddenly wanting a lot of movement and fast action, which that can also show up as impatience or restlessness or frustration. So starting March 6th, this transit enters the second house of finances, stability, physical vitality, and your values, just your core values. So you might be compelled to really sit in what you find valuable, and that can include your personal finances, right? So how you spend your money, how you earn your money, or on a less tangible front, what or who you allow into this personal or sacred space of yours. So use this time to really explore new ways of expressing your value. Because Venus and Mars are in the really forward-thinking sign of Aquarius, you know, you're being asked to experiment in the areas of life that they are transiting. For you, it is the second house. So where can you release some stubbornness and instead replace it with an openness to new ways of existing? I know that sounds super vague, but the second house can rule out, or it can rule that like contentedness with just being, with living in the present. So there's a really basic component with Mars and Venus activating that area of your life. How can you find more clarity and be calm and find happiness in that simpler state of being, rather than holding on to the control that stubbornness, you know, people who have that stubbornness, there's a sense of needing to control. So let's pull some cards. I want to get to the bottom of all of this. I'm going to start off with the Light Seers deck here, and we're going to look at how it was in the first house and then how it is in the second house. So thanks. And second house. Wow, they just jumped right on out. Wow, two majors. This is a big old time for you, huh? I mean, you're a cardinal sign. So, and if you have any fixed signs in there too, those are being activated a lot, especially with all the nodes going on. Anyway, that's a lot going on. So for the first house, it going through your first house, you've got the Lovers. And the Lovers speaks on all other relationships. So it's so interesting that the first house is this sense of self. It's all about your connection to who you are and your just innate sense of being. And you got the Lovers, which is all about everyone but you, or all about how you are in your relationships or how you deal with other people. So maybe there was a big focus of, instead of focusing on you and instead of focusing on your physical vitality or your sense of self, your connectedness to who you are, you were focusing on other people. Or maybe there was kind of a big focus on how you are with other people and what you do for others versus what they do for you. You know, maybe you were even taking more than you were giving. So now you're focusing on the second house, which you got the Fool. Feels like a very new and exciting energy, right? So starting something new, allowing and that is that Aquarius energy. That's it. There we go. So that Aquarian nature of finding contentment by just being, finding calm and serenity and happiness, simplicity and clarity through just existing, rather than having to always set these huge goals for yourself, right? That's very Capricornian. And so being able to release some of that stubbornness and finding new ways of just being happy and accepting new ways of being, maybe from other people. Because of this Lovers card that came up, I feel like other people are a really big influence in your life. Could be your romantic partner, right? Maybe you're, like how opposites attract. Maybe you're with a partner who's so different from you and they open your eyes to something totally new that normally you wouldn't be open to, right? You'd be a little more closed off, a little more stubborn to. Or maybe you have really close friends that are doing that for you, that are pushing you to grow. So that's really interesting. Allowing yourself to go on a new journey and also allowing yourself to know that you don't know where you're going. That unknown element of the Fool jumps off the cliff, or the Fool walks on knowing that they know absolutely nothing that's coming up. So allowing yourself to have that excitement for the adventure, and instead of being afraid of the unknown, to really accept the unknown and embody that acceptance. So let's see what the Prism Oracle has to say. Sometimes it takes some time. There we go. Determination. Sweetness. That is so awesome. I love that. You have got this determination. And just by saying, okay, I'm going to relax a little, maybe let go of the reins, maybe let somebody else control things for a minute. Maybe that is determination, right? I feel like Capricorn always wants, has this capacity to want to be in control of everything. And that makes them a very determined sign. But there's something about the determination of letting go too. And that is very Fool-like, of letting go and just letting things be. That almost is more impressive sometimes. And there's such a sweetness here. I almost feel like the people in your life that are pushing you, if your partner is very different from you or pushing you to grow a lot, that there's such a sweetness there and a kindness and a loving that they do want to be there for you. And there's such a support, I do feel like there might be a tendency to always, like I said, always focusing on other people and, solving other people's problems and taking care of other people, that those people also want to take care of you, So letting them do that and trusting in that universe. I know this doesn't say a lot about the first and the second house, but the first and second house can sometimes be, well, the first isn't, but the second house can be quite vague sometimes. This doesn't scream to me, oh, finances, except that maybe there's a new venture that is going to help you earn some money with the Fool. But for the most part, this is a big focus on letting go and a release of control and a newness and willingness to accept other ways of just existing. That second house is all about what are my core values? What are the core parts of me that I will always stick to and my priorities? And without them, you're kind of nothing, or you're not your unique version of yourself. So that's really interesting. I'm really curious to hear what's going on in your life. Feel free to comment below. Let's pull some more cards, see what your guides have to say. Anything extra? Oh, all right, great. 7 of Pentacles and 4 of Cups. You are putting in the hard work. Look at this freaking beautiful sunflower. I have such an affinity for sunflowers. You are putting in that personal work. You really are. You're doing a lot for yourself, and that is really awesome. And sort of that indulgence and self-care, continue leaning into that. Continue taking care of yourself. I think sometimes self-care will look very different from what you're used to, though. For a long time, I think maybe self-care for you was like the very typical things of like, wow, I'm going to allow myself the time to take care of like my feet and get myself a massage, you know, indulging in those sweeter, more sensory things. But now self-care is deep reflection of like how things came to be, and then that provoking real growth for you. You know, does that make sense? All right. And then you got this Four of Cups that was, sort of spoke on old ways of working through emotions, maybe not working anymore, and working on that in a new way, finding new ways to deal with that. Maybe you have to like really find what you value most. So I hope that was helpful for you. I'm sending you guys a lot of love, and I will see you next time. Bye. All right, so for those Aquarius heavy placements, this Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy in that 12th house. The 12th house is a tricky one. It rules intuition, escapism, right? So tendencies to escape, and also seeking of a universal bond. So I'm sure that the Venus retrograde in the 12th house gave you so much to consider when it came to those themes. And then once it ended, Mars asked you to really take action and move forward with alignment with your new values. So this was probably a time where you felt like hiding in the shadows. There may have been more going on under the surface than even you realize. The 12th house is such a subconscious place, and sometimes those with heavy 12th house placements don't even realize that they're acting out of an intuitive place when they do what feels natural to them. So this being just a transit for you, it's more like you were naturally pulled towards a sort of numbing or maybe even a dissociation. And this can be a really worrisome placement for anyone who has addictive tendencies. But a positive spin on that is that there is a lot of opportunity to tap into your creative and your empathic abilities. So this may have been an artistic opening for you too. So starting March 6th, this transit enters the illuminated house of your first house that represents all sense of self. So there's a push and pull when it comes to connecting to yourself, being in alignment with your identity. And you may feel the desire to really indulge and implement a lot of self-care, but then all of a sudden want a lot of fast movement and such fast action. So this can really show up as possibly as impatience or as restlessness or frustration. So try and use your talents as an Aquarius to you uniquely to find new ways of really grounding yourself and finding that balance between self-care and self-progression. Remember not to put too much pressure on yourself or to reinvent the wheel. Venus and Mars are fighting for your attention right now. So be really intentional about who you pick to give your attention to. So I want to pick some cards. I've got these piles on the table. I have all of these Chris-Anne decks that I'm choosing to play with today. Let's get to the bottom of it. So I want to look at sort of the overlying theme of the 12th house transit for you. And then we're going to look at the first house. So the 12th house, Two of Pentacles. And the first house, the Sun. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. So the 12th house being this place of intuition, of possibly of trying to escape from reality, of maybe numbing out or dissociating, which sometimes I do think that Aquarius has a very good skill, has very good capacity for numbing out or dissociating from certain situations. And you've got the Two of Pentacles. So for that, I feel like because you do have a Capricorn on the 12th house, there's definitely something very grounded about your intuitive nature, that you already know that you are an intuitive person. You don't have to talk about it. You don't need to really express anything about it. So I'm not going to speak too long about this 12th house stuff, but know that you can always go back to that. But I think you learned some really big lessons about your maybe escapist tendencies or maybe even your intuitive or empathic tendencies, right? This need to connect the world on such a soul level, that is what we have all in our 12th house. So then moving forward for the first house and this going on in your first house, you got the Sun really illuminating, letting yourself shine, which I know for an Aquarius, sometimes that can be like so cringy, right? The Sun is ruled by Leo, which is opposite Aquarius. And Aquarius is a very humanitarian sign. It's so focused on every like aspect of humanity, and then with you're being really highlighted with like the soul and the universal bond, but there's an element of having to shine, of you really showing yourself, of you really being able to embody some of that Leo quality, you know, even though it's opposite, doesn't mean that you have absolutely nothing to do with Leo. I think that a big lesson for you is to sit in your identity and to sit with your sense of self. How are you comfortable with yourself? How are you not? How can you work on that? So let's see what this Prism Oracle deck has to say. I've been really enjoying playing with this one. I would highly recommend it. It's really beautiful. So let's see. Ooh, this guy. Consciousness. Wow. Thank you. That deck really said it better than I did, didn't it? Consciousness. That is such a succinct way to say it. The 12th house is all about the subconscious. It's all about doing things under the surface or subconsciously without even realize you're doing it. I mean, we kind of talked about that you have like a natural tendency to just be an empathic or intuitive person. You don't have to be conscious about it. You don't have to physically reflect on it. But now when it's coming into this first house, this Venus Mars, it is all about being really conscious. It's all about being really conscious, not just for humanity, but for yourself, you know? You have so much focus on how can I better the world that I'm living in, but part of that has to happen within you. How can you better the world within yourself? How can you make sure that you're as comfortable with your own identity as possible? So really speaking on that, that's really big stuff. And if you're skilled with dissociation, as we like to put it here, you might feel that tendency or that want to run away. Try your hardest not to run away. Try not to let that get to you too much, and just let yourself be conscious and sit in that understanding of discomfort even, right? Sitting in discomfort is a huge thing right now I'm experiencing with a lot of clients and with myself too personally. So let's see what else there is, maybe from your spirit guides that they're trying to communicate to you. Page of Pentacles and the Emperor. They want you to take steps forward. They want you to move forward. They want you to be practical, but it's almost like they just like want you to take care of your, like, I feel like this is an ant that isn't particularly like nurturing or friendly, but that they do have your best interest at heart. And they want you to they want you to almost prove that you can do it. That's sort of the way they want to communicate. And they're like, make them feel like it's a challenge. You know, Aquarius is always up for a challenge. So challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to be as conscious as possible and in your escapist tendencies. And also why do you escape? And what would happen if you didn't? You know, what's the worst that would happen if you chose to stick around for those most difficult moments or stick around for those more difficult feelings? You have a really grounded nature about you, and having Earth on the water houses can be a really awesome placement. It means that you have a really grounded sense of your emotions. So I want you to do that. Not just me, but your spirit guides, you know, the guides that are here, whoever they are, want you to really move forward with shining the light on who you are, shining the light on the discomfort with who you are, and then also shining light on being really conscious in the moment and letting yourself experience those feelings, whether they're comfortable or not. All right, Aquarius, I hope that was helpful for you. I'm sending you so much love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. All right, Pisces rising, sun, moon. This Venus-Mars conjunction started off really heavy in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, of hopes and dreams, and also of your future thinking aspirations. So I am sure that this Venus retrograde in the 11th house gave you a lot to consider when it comes to all of those themes. But once that ended, Mars asked you to really take action and do things that align with the new values this retrograde period provided you. So you may have found that there was a lot of push and pull when it came to what you want out of your future, maybe a realignment with the people that you surround yourself by too. Especially because the 11th house is your large community of like-minded people. So you may have found yourself attracted to all different kinds of people, but a major lesson to learn here was setting boundaries with who you do let into that inner circle. You know, 11th house ruling friends and Capricorn ruling boundaries and clear discernment. I would imagine that you were asked to put your foot down in some regard and ask for respect in your larger community, or even demand respect in those communities. So starting March 6th, Venus and Mars move into your 12th house, and that rules your intuition, your empathic empathic abilities, and also your tendencies of escapism. So there may be more going on under the surface than even you realize, because the 12th house is such a subconscious place. And sometimes people with heavy 12th house or Pisces placements don't even realize that they're acting out of an intuitive place when they do what just feels natural to them. So this being a transit for you, it's more like you're naturally pulled towards a sort of numbing or even dissociation through maybe like you're watching too much TV or consuming too much social media or even like substance, right? Alcohol or drugs. But a positive point of this Venus Mars is that there's a lot of opportunity to tap into your creative and your empathic abilities. This may have even been like a big artistic opening point for you, or it will be in the future as it goes through the 12th. So especially with them being in Aquarius, you could find new channels of connecting to your own creative or spiritual ways of being. So I want to pick some cards. I've got 3 decks all by Chris Ann because I'm on a Chris Ann kick right now, and I've got my Prism Oracle. We're going to get to the bottom of all of this, starting with kind of a card just to encapsulate the experience of it going through your 11th house, and then another one for the 10th. So 11th, there it is, and 12th. Page of Wands, cool, for the 12th house. So the 11th house, you've got the 6 of Pentacles. Such an even exchange of energy was required when it came to your hopes, your dreams, your future aspirations, but most of all, your friendships, of your big friend groups, of your social groups, of the communities that you put yourself in, even if it comes to like Facebook groups, right? If you're part of Facebook groups, making sure that the energy exchange is equal, making sure you're giving as much as you're taking and you're taking as much as you're giving. There's a really big point of knowing your value in your friend groups. That feels really poignant to me. And this feels really succinct and clear. So let me know if you feel like you've had to set boundaries with the people in your life or the people in your community too. Moving on into the 12th house, we've got this Page of Wands, which is kind of cool. It's like fiery on this watery, really watery, subconscious, intuitive house of the 12th house. And like things being black and white. But this zebra is black and white, but she's playing with all different colors, right? She's playing with the colors of the rainbow. She's expressing, she's allowing things to be unlike her, right? She doesn't have this stubbornness, which I wouldn't normally equate to Pisces energy being stubborn at all. But I mean, I guess to Aquarius on the 12th, maybe there could be some stubbornness, but for some reason this feels very specific to somebody out there, like letting your freak flag fly and letting yourself be different when it came to your empathic abilities. You know, that's definitely something that could ring true. And also that it's the beginning of something that you might not know it all. There's like this new journey going on with maybe even your spiritual development or whatever spiritual practices or spiritual skills that you're learning right now. There's something really new and exciting about it. But making sure that you like express yourself throughout it all. You know, like the zebra is black and white stripes, but she's got like a red striped shirt on and she's playing with all of these colors and letting yourself be more than just one thing, right? Not letting yourself be pigeonholed into a certain, a certain group or a certain niche. So let's see what the Prism Oracle Prism Oracle deck has to say. Y'all, once I get to this 12th pile, it's a lot. So beautiful illumination. And just the one wants to come out right now. This is so interesting. This illumination card was kind of playing with me earlier. So illumination coming up, really shining the light. And the 12th house is a place of shadows. It is really a hidden spot, right? The subconscious. We don't tend to let the subconscious out because we don't even register what's in there. But there's something about illumination here. I think there's something about your spiritual development that's going to be really big. And that Aquarius energy on the 12th house, I feel like you have such a unique and potent way of approaching your subconscious and approaching your escapist tendencies or approaching your ability to dissociate or numb out or, like escape from reality. And it's really going to illuminate those issues. And I think it's going to be a really positive thing. I'm not really feeling like this is going to be a terrifying time. Just know, like, if you don't feel like it's a very potent time, a lot more is happening under the surface. So pay attention to the tensions that are being held in your body, because your body actually knows what you're experiencing more than your mind does sometimes. So let's pull some cards from the Light Seers Just some extra messages from your guides. The Two of Cups, relationships, and the King of Pentacles. Beautiful. Relationships, also work relationships being at the forefront here. But if not work, definitely just romantic or friendship being really big, like making sure that you can blend your differences together being something. But I'm really just feeling like there's a lot of spiritual communication that you can have with yourself and own that, you know, and not look for external validation at all to see if like what you're feeling or what you're experiencing is real. You know it's real, and just letting yourself believe in it, letting yourself, like I almost feel like this is you and this is your highest self. This is you guys communicating and blending together to become like this new beautiful version of you. And you don't need anybody else to tell you that that's real or that your experience is valid, because you can know that for yourself. So whatever you're going through in your spiritual development, please let me know in the comments. I really love to hear about that stuff. I love to be a part of people's journeys through their spirituality and through their healing. So yeah, I hope that was helpful for you. Pretty brief, but that seemed like pretty much the only thing that wanted to come out. I'm sending you guys a lot of love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.